Hello, 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 everyone. Good evening. Hey, Sue, number one in here tonight. All right. There you go. Hey, PG. Hey, to you, girl. God bless. She said, PG, what do you think happened to Summer? Um, to be honest, I think that Summer, I think what Jody Sue said, that, you know, Andy's supplying the stuff to sedate those little girls over there so they could be touched. And I think that one of them touches went really wrong, and something something happened really bad. I think Summer, think Summer needed a doctor. I think she really needed to go to a doctor, but they were afraid. They were afraid they'd take her to the doctor, they're going to go to prison. And they had, to save their own backsides, they decided to, you know, be evil and get rid of her. And I think that that's why, they got up that day and they knew there was an open grave across the road. And they got up early using Grandma's knee to go into Kingsport to pick up Hunter. And the whole plan really was to go to the swimming hole and in my opinion, do the dirty deed that was done. I believe that Summer wasn't with us on those milk jugs. And I think Candace took that bogus video on the way home in order as proof that, Summer was with them when they returned to 110 so they could use, the abduction theory. And I think once they got home and the boys came running out and got all the groceries and stuff, and well, I don't think all the groceries, a little bit of groceries, and that milk, and you know seen her sister inside the vehicle. They just assumed that she's okay, and was getting out of the vehicle as well. They were just hungry, busy, wanting to get back in the house and get through those bags, so they could have some food. Those kids were very hungry. Uh, they was living on a dollar store pizza a day. They wasn't going to school. It was summertime, and you know, they wasn't getting breakfast and lunch at no school. These kids were, they were, in my opinion, starving. And they was very hungry, and all they could think of was getting that house and get that food, and like poor kids do. I mean, I was a poor kid, so I know how you're going to ransack them bags, right? You're going to go out, help pack them in real quick so you can go through them, and see what there was to eat, because you're hungry. When you're poor, you're hungry, and you don't get a lot of food like other people do, and you want to see if there was any cereal, maybe some, something sweet, and you just want to get through those bags, and you ain't thinking about nothing else when you're, a poor kid like that. And I think that, they saw her in there, seen her, and just assumed she got out, just, running around there somewhere. And Candace was able to gaslight them into believing that, Summer even came into that house. And I told you guys, I hollered in here. I told you to watch her. What do you mean? Where's she at? And I don't think Summer ever went in that house. I think Candace, gaslighted those boys. She went and met up with Chad Arnold down at Fred Hill's hot place, and, you know, followed him out of there. I think that grave was open across the road over there, and Like Candace said, black tote. She mentioned the black tote, not us. And I think, she said black tote because that's what they put Summer in. Those were brown boxes in the back of that vehicle, not no black tote. I didn't even see a black tote. And nobody else did either. So, but she called it a black tote, meaning that I think that's what they put her in and took her over there. And if we could just get somebody to, do not what needs to be done, go over there and, check down in there. You don't even have to go down in there. You just gotta use, use technology. They got technology now that, looks like a lawnmower, but it basically, ground penetration. It goes down in there and shows everything that's below, all of the stuff, and see if they can't pick up some empty space inside of a tote. And if they can do that, then, they have to exhume the body over there and all the stuff and pull her up out of there. But, getting law enforcement to do what's righteous in the sight of God is hard to do in today's world. That's really hard to do. Back in the day, they'd have had that, they'd have been down in there. Matter of fact, in Georgia, they'd already been down in there looking. In Florida, they'd already been down in there looking. In a lot of states, they would have been in there looking, but not in Tennessee. Tennessee, it's a whole new ball game. It's a whole new ball game in Tennessee. So hard to get things done. Hard to get people to do righteousness. That's what I'm saying. Especially law enforcement. I don't know what the problem is. I don't know what's the hang up is. Something ain't right. Something ain't right in all of this, but I think Summer is no longer with us. That's what I think. And the sad thing is, Summer wasn't really wanted. She wasn't wanted, from day one, right? The day she came out a girl, she wasn't wanted. Candace just wasn't, Candace just didn't have, Candace wasn't motherly. She was, she didn't have what it takes to be a mom. I don't know. Even animals take care of their young, right? Even an animal takes care of its babies. Not Candace. I don't know what's wrong with her. But I think Summer, I think that little girl got used and abused and destroyed in the end. That's my opinion. And I bet I'm right. I bet I'm right. No doubt. I'm right. But that's what I think. All right, Brad, number 2 in here tonight. Number 2. Good to see you, PG. Much love. Hey, girl. I appreciate you remembering me. Right? God bless. Prayers to you and your family. Hey, girl, we could use them too. On Summer Moon, Utah Wells, love and prayers. Miss Norway, love and prayers. And prayers, everyone in chat. Amen. Girlfriend, that is beautiful. Number 2. You are number 2. All right, Brenda, you're number 3 in here tonight. All right. Wait a minute. I think I forgot somebody. Hold on. I'm about to PG's about to get in trouble. I'm about to get in trouble. Sue was number one. Brat, you was number two. I am so sorry, Brenda. You are number four. And Princess is number three. You are number three. I'm sorry. I did not see you. I did not see you. Okay. I'm sorry. And you are number four. Number four, Brenda. There you go. There you go. Happy Labor Day, PG and chat. Much love. Angels. Amen. Hey, girl, I appreciate that. And Princess said, hello to everyone. Hello to you. Good to see you in here. And Miss Justice. Girl, yeah, I knew I was gonna find you in the top 5 or 6 for sure. And there you are. Much love, PG. Much love to you. You came in number 5 tonight. Miss Justice is making a believer out of PG this year. Good evening, PG and chat. Much love. Hey, D, good to see you in here, girlfriend. Good to see you. Carrie Hall, good to see you, hon. And Carolyn, good to see you. Lisa. Oh, that is beautiful. That is absolutely beautiful. Hello, PG. Oh, that is so cute. And there's Bridget. How you doing, girlfriend? Good to see you. Yeah, we're trying. We are trying. We're, doing all we can. All we can. Hey, Jane, how you doing tonight, girl? Good to see you. This is Jane. I live in California. God bless. God bless. I hear California. I hear it's getting cleaned up out there. I heard the streets are getting cleaned up, starting to become a lot safer out there. I hope everybody is enjoying it. I hope everybody's enjoying it. And I heard that Washington, they're cleaning up everything in Washington and getting much safer. People going out to dinner and actually having, the freedom without worry, as they once did and as they always should. But I hear everything's getting cleaned up. God bless. And let me see, Miller, how you doing tonight, sweetie? God bless. Good to see you. Hey, love, how you doing? Hey, PG, where is Summer Moon? Girlfriend, me and you both would like to know that, right? Me and you both. I tell you, I pray all the time. Matter of fact, I was going through some paperwork today, and I found a notepad that I write in sometimes, my thoughts down. And I was looking through it, and I seen where, I was writing to the Lord. I was writing to the Lord and asking the Lord to let us find this little girl. Let us be able to bring her home. Let us get the closure that not just us, but her brothers need as well. And it's kind of, I didn't remember writing that. I didn't remember writing it, but I was like, I was glad I did. Right, I was glad I did. It was kind of like a surprise to, to go back and see some of the things, that some of our thoughts and so forth put on paper. It's, Hey, grieving mama, how you doing, sweetie? Prayers, blessing for all that need healing. Hey, girl, amen. There's a lot of people needing healing right now. God bless, and I appreciate you praying for him too. Ernie, I'm sure he still needs a lot more healing to do. Right, he's got a lot more healing to do. Somebody's husband was, going into surgery last time I was in here, and I hope that went well. I hope everything went well. And also, they was there was a great unliving, um, and many injured, um, at a church, right? At a church, um, all kinds of things going on, in this world right now. And a little girl and a little boy, both of them, unlived by a evil person, an evil human being that didn't think about others, just herself. And I think the Bible tells us that at the end of time they'll become selfish, self-centered, self-seeking, lovers of oneself instead of um, kind, caring, and loving as we're supposed to be towards all people, not just ourselves. uh, humans don't humans don't understand that um, our actions have reactions, right? It's not just going to affect us, as a selfish way to think. uh, it don't just affect you. Every every decision you make don't just affect you, it affects the people around you as well. And it affects the people around them. And and basically, some decisions can upset a whole world, right? Some decisions people make can upset the whole world. And we got to be more conscious of what we do in this life. When we go to make a decision, we got to think about the people surrounding us as well as ourselves. How is it going to affect those around us, right? And before we go making big decisions you know, to do things. That's why, a lot of decisions, like for instance, if I'm going to, buy a high ticket item, I consult with my children, because when I buy something high ticket, you know, something like that, it's a family decision, because what I do with the money don't just affect PG. It affects the whole family. And because now we're going to have to cut corners, and is that okay? Because your children and their feelings come first. How do they feel about it? And I always ask for honesty. I always want honesty out of my kids. Don't tell me, hey, that's great or that's fine, just, to be nice or whatever. I want to know the truth. What do you really think? Do you think, we should do this or not do this? And because, it's going to affect everybody. So it should be a family decision. I could say I'm the parent, and I get to say yes, and I get to say no, and you're a kid and stay in a kid's place, and that's wrong. That's not right, because our decisions affect our kids. And so we should always ask, is everybody willing to cut corners here and there in order to get this high ticket item, whether it's a living room suit that you would really like to have, to make the home look nicer, or maybe a new dining room table, or maybe a different vehicle. The one you're driving's nice, but maybe you just like to have something different, and but everything affects your family. What you do with that money affects us all. Hey Pam, how you doing, girl? PG chat mods, hello. I, I think I said hello to spread love. Maybe I didn't, girlfriend. Hello, PG. Hello, Moz. Hello to Summer's Army. Hello to you, girl. If I haven't already said hello, I'm saying it now. Let me get down through here. Hey, Stephanie, good to see you. But yeah, keep them prayers going up. Keep them going up for everybody. Hey, girl, I love you too. You know it. You know it. I appreciate that. Um, oh, that's beautiful, Wendy. That is absolutely beautiful. Oh, hello, everyone. Hey, Legendary. How you doing, sweetie? Oh, Purple Hearts for Summer. There we go. You're not blocked, sweetie. You are not blocked. Absolutely not. Or chat not going through. Nope, you're not blocked. You're right here. You're right here on screen. Look up. Look up at the screen. You're not blocked. We all could see you. Yeah. I boy, if you get blocked in here, you get blocked in here, you gotta do something really, really, really bad to get blocked in here, right? Hey, Deputy Sheriff, good to see you. Good to see you in here tonight. God bless. Hey, Sherry, how you doing? I wear Star David and empty cross. I Star David for Jesus' birth and an empty cross for his resurrection. Amen. Yeah, I wear I carry the Star of David as well. Um, I love the Star of David. Absolutely. I went to I went to touch my necklace and I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I ain't got it on. All right. Like it ain't on. I went to touch it. But I do love the Star of David. I'm half Jewish, I feel. I respect them so very much. I love the Jewish people. Absolutely. Those are God's chosen. Those are God's chosen people. And and they went through so much. They went through so much. Um no one should ever have to go through what they put the Jewish people through. Um there's evil humans in this world. Always, always been evil people in the world. From the beginning, even in the Garden of Eden, you had the evil serpent that got Adam and Eve to sin, and then you had on Cain and Abel, you know, um, Cain unlived his own brother out of jealousy, right? Out of jealousy, and you know, there's no reason. God makes everyone perfect, right? God makes us all perfect. And we should not ever be jealous of nobody. We should want to see everybody doing good, right? You have no business. Why what is jealousy about? I mean, God doesn't make mistakes. He makes you who you are. He makes you special in your own way, right? And um that's what I didn't ever understand, I could never understand. Like, some of my girlfriends, for instance, some of my girlfriends, I'll give you a scenario. Some of my girlfriends, they would be so green-eyed and envy and jealous of some of our other girlfriends, and they're like, why does he like her? What has she got that other people don't have, and stuff like that. And well, she's got what he likes, and and somebody's going to have what you like, right? Somebody's going to have what you like. Um, like you're gonna like people. You're gonna you're gonna like people who don't like you, right? Um, it's not like you, but like you like that. Like they don't want to be your boyfriend. You're gonna meet people that don't want to be your boyfriend. You're going to meet people that you don't want to be their girlfriend, right? Guys are going to come up to you and you're going to be like, you know, no, thank you. Um, you know, because they're not your type. Everybody has a type. And, and I couldn't understand why some of my girlfriends were so jealous of some of the other ones. I wasn't jealous of none of them because, um, if you ain't somebody's type, walk away. Walk away. I mean, why are you going to be jealous? Uh, like she got that guy because, she was that guy's type of girl. He liked her. He wanted her. And, and she liked him. And, that's a hard find in this world, right? That's a hard find when two people truly like each other, care about each other. And, you should bless them. You should say, God bless you. Hope it lasts forever because this is a hard find. I'm not going to be sitting there jealous trying to tear it apart. There's somebody out there for everybody. There's somebody for everybody. You need to find your own. Don't be looking at someone else's. Don't be hating or being jealous. Find your own, right? I could never understand it. I was always happy with what God gave me, right? I was always happy with what God gave me. And I didn't want nothing that somebody else had. I don't need it. I don't want it. It ain't worth it. But I seen a lot of them girlfriends, they be trying to move in on, their girlfriends men. And I seen I even seen sisters. I even seen sisters trying to move in on each other's men. And I'm like, what the hell? I don't want nothing been with my sister, right? That's just nasty. If that's gross. That's absolutely gross, if you ask me. But it happens. It happens out there. And I don't need that shit in my life. I don't need none of that in my life, I ain't got time to be jealous of other people because I'm too busy, wishing the best for them. I ain't got time to be hating on nobody because I'm wishing the best for them. I ain't got time for none of that stuff. There's too many people in this world, that do evil stuff, that shouldn't be being done. Like Summer Wells, for instance, little Summer missing. There's too many people out here doing things that need our attention. Worse than sitting around being jealous of somebody. If you want to put that energy, to good use, all of that dislike to good use, well, put it to good use disliking people who destroy 5-year-old innocent little babies. Okay? That's what I think. Put it towards, all of this hatred that's going on in the world. Between, different people. Put it towards something that's, going to actually benefit, make things better and not worse. Put all of that towards something that's going to count, instead of standing around putting it towards, putting it towards your girlfriend or your sister or, somebody else. Do something positive with, if you got to dislike man, dislike things like that. Dislike, dislike all the illegal substances coming into our country, destroying, so many people, so many, dads and moms and sisters and brothers and cousins, and let's channel that. Let's channel that in areas that need it, instead of channeling it on each other. That's weird, but that's what humans do. Some people just have a need to hate. They just, they have a need to dislike. They have a need to be jealous. They have, they embrace their evilness. They like being evil. They get some kind of charge out of it, some kind of, which is really weird. And you got to have some type of mental issues to, to actually get off on being freaking evil. I'm not a person that likes to sit around and, and sneer and laugh about evil shit. That ain't me. I don't snigger. I don't, I'm not one of them people that snigger. But then again, I'm not evil either. I like to laugh. I like to laugh with, with my friends, my family, my friends. I like to laugh when we're having a cookout and, somebody does something silly, or one of the kids, say something really surprising. I like to laugh, but I like to laugh at, at good stuff, not evil BS. I don't like to get in corners and talk about how, partners in crime. We're partners in crime. Sound all freaking stupid. And sneer and laugh because, I'm plotting against somebody that don't deserve it, just because I want to be, an evil piece of trash. That's not, that's not me. And I hope to God that it ain't ever me, to be honest. You got that right. Summer does need to be found, Carrie. She does need to be found. But you know what? I don't think she'd be that hard to find. I don't think she'd be that hard to find if we could get somebody to just go over to that cemetery and do what needs to be done. Right? I don't think she's going to be that hard to find. I think she's right there in the area, like a law enforcement said. I think law enforcement knows exactly where Summer is. They might have dumbfound her. They might have, they might know exactly where she's at. They're just not bringing her forth yet. They're not going to bring her forth because they're looking for something else. That one little piece, remember? That one little piece that they need might be some videos, right? Might be some videos, $5,000 videos that Don and Candace have. Who's on them videos? Who the hell's on them videos? I mean, if he's got his boss on those videos, who in the hell else is on those videos? Is that why her case ain't been solved yet? I don't know. It's a possibility, right? Because I think, from what I'm seeing, it wouldn't be hard to solve this case at all. That's just my opinion. Now, I don't know what the feds do. See, the problem with the feds, the problem when you're with the feds, see, people think that the feds, the feds are the smartest. They work the hardest, and and they can get, and they, if the door's open, they can really get stuff done. The problem is the door ain't open. You got you can law enforcement like Hawkins County, they can try to block what the feds, the feds only have as much arm length as as the county will give them, or this, that this particular law enforcement will allow them to have. I mean, the feds can get super pushy. Don't get me wrong; they can get pushy, and possibly, push past the law enforcement there in Hawkins County. They might be able to push past TBI in Hawkins County, but they're going to, it would really be, like a scandal. You know, it's not easy. It's not easy to get it done. I mean, you would have to prove that, they're not doing their job. You would have to prove that, there's something seriously wrong, where the feds need to come in and take over everything, and solve it up, because something ain't right, and something ain't right in all of what's going on. It would be a lot to do. Just saying. Because there's that little piece. There's that little piece. You know, why would they not want help? Because there's that little piece of something they're looking for, and until they get it, they're not solving Summer's case. What is that little piece? What is that little piece? Do they even freaking know what that little piece is? They must, or they wouldn't mention it. They must know what that little piece is, or they wouldn't mention it. Right? That's because heck, we've had Don Wells come out here. I mean, we've had Andy Bernard come out and, basically say that she's in the cemetery. He ain't afraid to say it. We've had Jody Sue talk about the cemetery early on, and how Andy Bernard supposedly is giving the children, stuff to sedate them, and, so they can be touched, and not just Summer, but a lot of little girls. And, I believe that. I truly believe that what Jody Sue was saying. I mean, like, there is proof leading to that accusation being true, right? Because they had multiple children up there on that land. They have multiple children on that land. And we know that John and Candace was taking advantage of multiple children up there, right? We know they were giving them illegal substances. They were hugging them and hanging on to them, and, getting really freaking weird with them. And I mean, there's proof there's proof to these allegations being made. That's not hearsay. He said, she said BS. We got pictures. We have pictures, tons of pictures of these kids being up there on that land with these people hanging on them, and just really weird, stuff, really weird, stuff going on with these kids. And those are facts. They say there's no facts in this case. I'm gonna tell you, I ain't seen nothing but facts. That's my opinion. I haven't seen anything but facts about everything being said, to be honest with you. And how law enforcement sits there and says, they need facts, they need, solid stuff. I don't know how they're saying that. I think it's total bullshit. because, the fact is we got pictures of Candace hanging on different little boys, not just Hunter, but other little boys. We got witnesses, tons of witnesses talking about, Don Wells and the shower and the bedroom downstairs. And we got, and we got Don talking about, that admitting that he, showered with this child and slept with this child and all of these things and even admitted that, he sleeps in his birthday suit, right? He even admitted that he don't, that's just disgusting. And we have, both of them admitting, Candace and Dawn admitting, that they had a videotape that they supposedly sold for $5,000 of their boss, having, relations with their 5-year-old child, right? And I mean, what more the hell do you need? What more do you need than, this stuff coming out of the horse's mouth herself, right? And anybody else would have been arrested. They would have been picked up, handcuffed, and took to the jailhouse if they said that, they sold a video, of their child being done like this, especially when the child's missing. Nobody else would have got away with this stuff. Why are they getting away with it? That's my question. That's my question, right? I want to know. I want to know why. Oh, Nurse Sandy, I appreciate that, sweetie. Summer's Army, much love and prayers. Hey, girl, I appreciate that. I appreciate the support for Summer. Amen. God bless. God bless. Yeah, but I don't know. I don't know. Absolutely, Miss Justice. Thank you for that donation. Absolutely. God knows we can use it. But yes, these are facts. These are all facts. They're not, and they're solid. And they're solid. It's not, it's not just BS. It's facts and it's solid. And, I just like to know what the hell their little piece is. When they busted into the Wells house while Don was in jail and Candace was off, skipping through the pawpaw patch, with Kathy, the friend, and whoever else would skip with her. They were up there inside that house going through the safe, right? Using the fact that, they supposed to have been some ammo or something in the safe. So they was using that as a excuse, to go into that house and to tear it apart and even rip a safe open and look all through it. And, I don't think that, I don't think they was looking for, what the pow pow uses to be able to pow pow. I don't believe that's what they were looking for. I personally believe that if they would have found, at that time, if they would have found, like the boss's videotape, well, would we be here now? Would we be here now, or would Summer's case be solved? Love you, PG, and all you do for Summer. Hey, girl, Carrie, I appreciate it. Member for 15 months. All right. God bless. I appreciate that. I appreciate all your support. But yeah. Oh, no. What's wrong with Mr. Trump? I don't think there's anything wrong with Trump. Our president, has a lot on his plate. Um, he's right now, he's cleaning up the streets. He's calling in, National Guards, and he's cleaning up, all of these places that have been in disarray for a long time. Um, a lot of evilness going on and so forth in our country. And he's busy right now trying to clean up all of our streets, and and get all the prices down so people can actually start affording to live again. And he's really working super hard, right? He's working super hard to get this country back to God fearing and law abiding and all of these things. God bless him. God bless him for because he's given it one heck of a try, right? He's given it one heck of a try, and yes, God will prevail. That's true. And he's doing so much, and he's addressing all of these crimes out there and the mental health issues. He's trying to, you know, open up places, more places for, because they shut down all the mental health places that people used to be able to, go to and get themselves, back on track and thinking normal again. All of these places has been, shut down and been put into the doctor's hands, which don't do nothing but, and a lot of times make the situations worse. They misdiagnose and all kinds of stuff. And, it's a kind of a money thing, right? It's a money thing. I mean, these people, they want to medicate everybody up. They want to medicate all these people up, and instead of um, really taking the time to try to, straighten them out and get them back on a righteous and normal path. And, and they say that all of these people, are having all of these issues and stuff because they're trapped inside of, what's on the inside of people ain't matching what's on the outside of them. And that's just weird. That's just weird because, you know, I, take for instance, a pot or a pan. If you clean up the inside of it, the outside starts coming clean, right? I mean, if you wash the inside real good and soap it up and scrub it up, and the outside starts to become clean, right? The stuff starts falling off the outside, and it takes very little to clean up the outside once you've washed the inside really good, you know. Um, and that goes with humans too. It goes with humans too. Clean up the inside and the outside to come clean. That's just common sense. That if you get away from, the evil, and you start trying to do righteous and be righteous and walk in the righteous path, and apply yourself in the other direction, that you was going in the wrong direction, but now you turned and you're going in the right direction. you know um Not just the inside of you will start to sparkle and shine, but the outside of you will start looking a hell of a lot better too. And and God, because you got God. And God, God loves people who work hard to walk on the righteous path, and what, your life just gets better. What you need, stuff comes out of the blue, right? Whatever you need, God supplies it, because you're working. He sees how hard you're working, and he loves how hard you're working. He respects how hard you're working, and he puts his hand in it, and everything you do starts to profit. It starts to profit because that's what happens when you're walking the righteous path. And that's why people are jealous of you. They're jealous of you. They can't do what you do. They don't understand how you do so much with so little. Well, I'm going to tell you, that's God. That's not you. That's God. They feel that they make so much more. They have, so much more to do with. Well, they're not doing righteous with what they've got. You might not have as much, but you're applying it in all the righteous places, right? And God sees that. And that's why you're doing so good. You're doing so good because, you're doing what's right in the sight of God. And God, and God lets what little you have go a long, long ways. And people are jealous of you. Well, they don't need to be jealous. They need to start applying their stuff in the righteous way, so it'll go a long ways as well. And get off their evil damn path. They need to get off that evil path and start doing things right as well, right? But they don't want to because, they like to feel, they like to feel that hate towards other people. They like to have that jealousy. They like to make excuses to try to make other people's lives a living Hades. They like to cause issues and problems for other people. They're just freaking evil, and they like being that way because they feel like, it gives them a sense of power or something over other people's lives, to be able to mess up other people's lives. That's pretty sick. That's pretty sick, right? I mean, I never felt the need to feel, I've never had a need to feel powerful. I never had a need to feel like, I can do what I want with other people's lives. That's sick. That's disgusting. You know what? I got enough to do just taking care of my own life. I don't want to be, controlling anyone else's. I ain't got time to, to be disliking my neighbors or jealous of my neighbors or anything else or anyone. I like I said, I don't have time for it. I'm too busy wishing the best for everybody and praying that God, keeps stretching my little bit a long ways. That's where I'm at in this life. And I don't, I don't worry about what anybody else has, I'm not sitting there wanting it or thinking about it or trying to get it or, cause them any trouble because they do got it. That's just, insane to me. It's insane. But evil people, that's what they do. That's what they do. The Wells sit up there. The Wells, for years, Don and Pam went to these food kitchens and stuff. And Don was always a really good worker. Don had no problem getting up and going to work and making a big paycheck every week. And I'm sure that Pam and Don could have put food on their own table and paid their bills and ate off of their own table and not had any problems. They didn't need to go to these, churches, these food pantries and stuff, for free meals. They didn't need to go to the soup kitchens, but they went to those soup kitchens because they wanted to target young women, young mothers like Lisa with a baby. And they wanted to target these young people with the babies in there and pull them back to their house and and use them for sinister stuff. Don and Candace, and Pam was scoping out these people. They were scoping these people out for pure evilness. They had an evil agenda. They wasn't looking at Lisa. They was looking at the child, right? That's because that's the kind of sick humans they were. And they wasn't looking at Candace. They was looking at the fact Candace was pregnant, going to have a baby that they could possibly use. And, and just so happened the hospital took hers, right? The hospital took it. So she didn't ever get to bring it home, thank God. But, they wasn't looking at Candace. They was looking at that child. And then Candace gets with Don Wells after law enforcement and child protective services came into Don and Pam's place over in Arkansas and removed those kids, all of them children, for being SA'd, right? And they wasn't, and then they didn't get their babies back either. Lisa didn't ever get her baby back. They took them and they kept them because of what, what they were running out of that place, then doing out of that place. And so basically, he got with Candace when law enforcement and came in and all of that got scattered to pieces at that residence. He gets with Candace and takes off and ends up going over into Tennessee, where we got Jody Sue saying, hey, they were doing it here too, right? You got Lisa saying it was done in Arkansas. You got Mary and them saying that Don Wells was doing it up in Utah, right? And you got all of these witnesses who are saying that this has been a long history. It went from Utah to Arkansas into Tennessee. And with all of these witnesses, I mean, how could you not believe? How could you not believe that it was being done? How could you not believe that, that little Summer wasn't, being used the same way the children were in Arkansas, the same way Don was trying to use his kids up in Utah. It's what they do. It's what they do. This, that's their evilness. That is their evilness, and that's how evil works. Candace and Donald, they became, Candace took her kids and used her kids as a pawn to meet people like Allison and Allison's mother, who had kids that they could get their claws on, that they can get their paws all over. And, and people like Marlena, so they could get their paws on her little girl, and others. There's probably tons of victims that, Don and Candace has brought onto that heel for a long time. And, it wasn't ever zoned in on until Summer came up missing. Nobody ever zoned in on it because it was, an isolated area that everybody knew everybody. I mean, if anybody came in there that wasn't supposed to, they were alerted right away. They were all on guard up in there. I'm going to tell you, nobody came inside Ben Hill Road and abducted anyone. I don't believe that shit. I don't believe it. I don't believe that at all. The way Don Grandis and Candace was handling Summer's case from day one allows us to know that they had all to do with what happened to this little girl. That's my opinion. I'm going to keep it, because they were pushing the narrative of abduction too damn soon. I mean, they really didn't even look for her, and they were already pushing that narrative. And that allows you to know that it's bullshit. Just my opinion. But, you have to be smarter, be as wise as a serpent. You can be as wise as a serpent without being one, right? You can actually, be as sweet and as calm as a dove, but as wise as the serpent. You better know evil when you see it, because if you don't know it when you see it, it can get you. It gets a lot of people every single day. Evil gets a lot of people. And we have got to do more. We've got to step up and start doing more in this world. You know, it's like the young man that destroyed you know, the little girl and the little boy. He unlived them both and injured a lot of other children. And, you know, and left the whole community in disarray. And he was putting it out. He was, you know, he was crying out for help because he was, you know, writing all over social media. He was on Facebook. He was everywhere writing all the things he planned on doing and all the stuff, and, you know, and all of his heartbreak and issues and problems and all the stuff. But no one reported it. No one decided, hey, this guy, you know, is plotting and planning to do some weird stuff. We better contact law enforcement, you know, and turn it in. I mean, better to be safe than sorry. So, you know, so maybe, you know, it was BS. It's better to be safe than sorry. In this case, it wasn't BS. It was straight up truth. And if someone would have reported that, well, a little girl and a little boy would still be here, and a lot of people wouldn't be wounded. A lot of families would still be whole, as we said here tonight, but they're not. They're shattered. It just takes one evil person to shatter a whole community. And usually those evil people cry out for help, but nobody seems to listen. Nobody seems to listen. And the people who loved him the most should have been turning him in. They're the ones that should have been turning him in for his evilness, to keep other people safe, like those children. You know, just saying, you guys. Oh, okay, Brat. I appreciate that, sweetie. I appreciate it. Uh, 11, 11-year-old having a baby in a disgusting house. I think I did hear something. I think I did hear something about that. You know, I'm going to tell you, I do take note that they're drawing a lot more awareness. As I was scrolling through YouTube today, you know, I think we all, you know, have those boring moments when we open YouTube and just, you know, scroll through and you know, see what's on there. And I did take note that there's drawing more attention to, you know, this type of behavior, you know, when it comes to people, you know, doing bad stuff to children, right? Doing bad stuff to children. Children, and a lot more children today, children they don't fear telling like they once did, right? I mean, we got it out in the open now, and children don't fear telling on people, you know, people who are doing evil stuff to them anymore. A lot of kids, will speak up now where, back in the day they wouldn't, because, back in the day, a lot of children, got called liars and, and they just wasn't going to be heard. They weren't going to be heard. Even if they did tell, they weren't going to be heard. And they still have to stay in that same place and get even worse abuse than they was before because they did tell. So a lot of, back in the day, people didn't, kids were afraid. They were afraid. They knew how it went, right? They knew how it went. And, but in today's world, you don't have to, they do believe these kids and they do, they do remove them and they stick them in safer environments now and so forth and so on. And there's a lot more awareness coming out. I noticed, on YouTube about that particular topic. Guess what, PG? What? Lockdown? What's going on, girlfriend? But I did hear Fred talking. Wow. 6 kids and no running water. Yeah, that's, I don't know what to say. I mean, wow. Even, my great-great-grandparents had running water, right? My great-great-grandparents actually had running water. It's called, 2 legs. You run out to the well, you pull it out of there and you run it back to the house, right? They had running water. They had dishwasher, whoever was standing at the sink washing them damn dishes was the dishwasher, right? I don't understand today's world. I really don't. I mean, people in the 1800s were able to stay cleaner than humans today. That's disgusting. That's, uncalled for. It's uncalled. Even the Amish have running water, right? They have running water. They have sinks. They actually have sinks. Yeah. They don't have, they don't have electricity. They still light, oil lamps and stuff like that, but they do have running water inside the house to be able to, to keep everything clean and live normal, a little normal. It is. It is, a lot of people, I'm telling you, we got a mental health crisis on our hands in this world. We got a real mental health crisis going on. And a whole lot of laziness. A whole lot of laziness, That's I think the good Lord every day for coming, we were really poor. We were super poor and everything, but I thank the Lord for, for my grandmother and my aunts and my mom, who knew what hard work was. They knew, they didn't put up with you. You didn't sit around. You didn't sit around your backside. You didn't, you didn't come home and sit down at the table, what's to eat, wait for yourself to be served, and bring the plate back and put it in the sink for somebody else to do, and and just do what you want to do. Go to your room, hang out on, game machine or this or that or what, Oh, hell no. I'm going to tell you what, when you came in from school, when you got in from school, you mother, right then and there, you mother freaking started helping prepare dinner, right? You started to, help whatever else needed to be done. You started, I don't care if it was peeling potatoes or washing and cutting up vegetables or, whatever needed to be done at that table. Set the table, put out, the glasses and forks and spoons, and then after supper you didn't get to go nowhere. You had to stay and help wash them dishes. You got them dishes washed, you got that table cleaned, you got the floor swept up, you got it mopped up, right? It was time to clean the stove, wipe everything down, clean everything up. And I'm going to tell you, by the time you got all the work done, it was already getting dark outside. It was dusk to dark. And then you wasn't going nowhere because it was too late to go anywhere other than the porch to hang out, with your family and maybe, play around, on the land for a while and then, it's time to go in and get cleaned up and, ready, put your pajamas on, brush your teeth and go to bed. There wasn't none of it. And you got up in the morning. I'm going to tell you what, you had chores to do. You had to help get breakfast. You had to, help clean up the breakfast dishes and wipe up everything and help, whatever needed to be done. You had to do it. That's the way it was. And you always had certain things you had to do. Maybe, you helped in the kitchen this week, but next week, you had to help with the laundry, or you had to, keep the living and dining room cleaned up, or, go help with the bedrooms, right? And when you got up in the morning, you didn't run out of your room. You better not run out of that room. You better stay in that room and make up the bed. Make sure that, there ain't no clothes laying around anywhere. Everything put away. That room better be corner to corner clean before you come out of it. Because if it wasn't, when you got home from school, let me tell you what, you were going to go up there and you was going to clean that room before you even had any dinner. That's just the way it was. There was no time to be lazy. There was, a lot of work to be done, and your parents didn't have you to wait on and to spoil and to give everything to. They had you because you got two hands that, need to help and take care of things. Right? Hey, little PG, how you doing, girlfriend? Hello, Mama PG. Much love and prayers to you, girl. But yeah, just saying. I'm gonna tell you something. I ain't ever seen nothing like Ben Hill Road. I'm gonna tell you that right now. I'm gonna tell you, we was poor as a church mouse, but I'm gonna tell you what. We didn't ever live in filth like that. Absolutely not. We did not live in filth like that. I ain't never seen nothing like Ben Hill Road in my life. I have not ever seen, such demise in my life. I couldn't believe people actually lived in those places. I'm looking at them and I'm like, these are abandoned houses. I mean, they would abandon in most places. Like they come up and put a sticker on the door, right? Abandoned until that place was fixed. No. These people are living in, that's so ungodly. I don't know how anyone can survive in places like that. I cannot believe it. Um, you know, I'm not the judge. I'm not the judge of Andy and Jody Sue. I'm not the judge of them. God is. I got to let people know PG is not the judge of these people. And I'm not judging them. I'm just calling out, you know, what they said for Summer's sake. For Summer's sake, I'm just relaying to everybody what these people have done and what these people have said. And, and how it pertains to the case. And that's what I'm doing. I'm not judging anyone. But, the Bible says don't, you know, do not be, spread false witness against your neighbor. Don't spread false witness against your neighbors. Who's your neighbors? Well, everybody in this world's your neighbor. Believe it or not. The whole world's your neighbor. Israel's your neighbor. Russia's your neighbor. England's your neighbor. It's neighboring countries. Everybody. We got neighboring states, cities, communities. Everyone's your neighbor. And you're supposed to be respectful in every way. To not spread no false witness. I'm not spreading nothing false. I'm spreading the truth. I'm spreading what these people said. Jody Sue did say that Andy, go over there and you asked Candace, you asked them what Andy was coming over there and supplying those children with, and what he was supplying Candace with to sedate not just Summer, but other little girls too. That's what she said. That came out of her mouth, not PG's. So Jody Sue basically said that Andy was supplying Candace, and she said with something, not the goody good stuff, not the stuff you roll up, or that you smoke. But she said, you asked him what it was besides that he was given to Candace to give to these children to sedate them so they could be touched. Not just Summer, but other little girls as well over there at 110 Ben Hill Road. That's what she said. That's, that ain't false witness, baby. That is the truth. That's the truth. I don't, I don't spread no falsities. None at all. And, and if he was over there selling stuff to Candace to sedate these little girls so they could be touched, then Don and Candace was running an operation just like the one Lisa came up here, Lisa J came up here and said that was being ran over in Arkansas when her baby got taken away from her over SA charges. When she said that law enforcement came in, and then Child Protective Services was called in, and they removed all the children there. And they took them to the hospital, and they had all been SA'd, and nobody got their kids back. So it sounds like the same operation going on in Tennessee. And, Mary came out, and I heard that Pam herself supposedly came out here and told, people that Don Wells took his son, his and Pam's son, and tried to sell the child, right, to someone, try to take it and sell it to someone, so he could get some stuff. Um, so, this goes back all the way back into Utah, and then into Arkansas, and then into Tennessee. So, we should not be shocked. We should not be shocked to understand that this kind of stuff was going on. What we should be shocked about is law enforcement not solving Summer's case. With all the information we have and all the history, the back history, we should be shocked that this case hasn't been solved yet. That's what we should be shocked about. Just saying. Well, you guys plainly heard Candace laughing and laughing and laughing while Don told about the $5,000 videotape he sold of his boss, doing evil stuff to his daughter. You heard Candace thinking it was oh so funny. That right there let you know that Candace, is no saint. She was all for it. She was all in it. She was all with it. And you know what? Jody Sue didn't ask Andy what he was going over there selling Dawn to sedate those little girls. He said, go ask Candace what he was selling her to sedate those little girls so they could be touched. There you go. And if we remember right, it was Candace and Grandis with Summer the day they went into Kingsport to pick up Hunter. It was Candace and Grandis with Summer on those milk jugs, which I think Summer was, deceased. She was not alive. It was Candace that went down to Fred Hill's house and met up with Chad Arnold and followed him out of Ben Hill Road. This was all Candace. So, when people sit around and they want to support Candace, like Dawn's a monster, they want to support. No, they're both monsters. They're both monsters, in my opinion. Candace is just a monster, maybe even more so than Dawn Wells. And I'll explain why I say more so. Because she was that little girl's mother. She was the one that's supposed to protect her child. She's the one carried it for 9 months. She's the one that went through everything to have it. And she's the one that's supposed to have the motherly instincts to protect her children, not Dawn Wells. So in my book and my opinion, she's a bigger monster than he is because she allowed it all to happen. And it sounds like she also made sure that she carried out what needed to be carried out against her own child to protect her evil ass, Dawn's evil ass, Grandis's evil ass, and a whole lot of other evil asses. If you ask me, that's my opinion. I'm going to keep it. Just saying. The devil doesn't come to people with the towel and a pitchfork. He don't have to. He's already got them. Right? He's already got those people. The devil be trying to, the devil goes after people like us. He goes after God's children. He don't go after them evil people. He's already got them. He knows where they're going. He knows, he knows they're joining him in Hades one day. He goes after the people, the devil chases the people he ain't got. He don't need to chase anybody he already got. Yeah. I'm going to tell you, I learned a long time ago, that the truth hurts people more than a lie ever will. Man, I'm going to tell you, the truth really, and if the truth hurts the person so much, then that person needs to check themselves. They need to check themselves. They need to change. If the truth hurts you, then you're doing something wrong. You need to look in the damn mirror and make a change, right? Michael Jackson had it right. Make a change. But I'm going to let you guys hear Fred.
Yeah, like I told L.E., the law enforcement and stuff, when I was talking to him about it, Betty Jo did have some money and stuff after they had found Cotton and stuff, more money, because she never did have no money, maybe $50 or something other, but she had a couple $100, because she had come and actually tried to buy some dope off of me, and I was actually out at the time.
Right. Oh, so she pops up with monies as well.
Yeah, because I talked to law enforcement even about that,
Right. There you go, Ziggy. Right. There you go, Ziggy. This is what me and Fred talked about, right? This is our conversations. Yeah. I'm playing out every last bit of mine and Fred's conversations, Ziggy. And I'm going to play them out until every last one is out here. Be back tomorrow night, Ziggy, because I got more. I've got more. I'm sure all of these people surrounding Fred and surrounding, Hawkins County there that he's talking about, I'm sure they're going to really love hearing what old Fred has to say about them. Right? You come out here and you wanted to put out some text that you destroyed half of. I don't know why, but you did. That ain't all. I'm bringing out all the text too, Ziggy. I'm going to let people see what you deleted, right? I'm going to do that too. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care if it takes a week. I don't care if it takes 2 weeks. I don't care if it takes a damn month. I'm going to go through every bit of it because I want all these people to know the truth. And the truth is, I am professional. And I tell the truth or I don't say nothing at all. Right, Ziggy? You can say whatever the fuck you want about PG, but you cannot say I'm a liar. And you cannot say that I don't stay professional. And you cannot say that I don't work overtime for these missing children. Because I definitely do. No one deserves this kind of evilness to surround them and destroy them. No one, especially little children. Oh, that's right. You wasn't ever for the little children anyway, were you, Ziggy? When I was trying to get out, when needed to be got out for summer, and you kept promising, oh, I'm going to do it, and you didn't, because you wanted a big shit show. You didn't ever see that many people rolling in, and that big of a bank account flowing your way as you did when you let people attack me and mistreat me and throw hate on me just because I wanted to help a missing child. You even had your audacity to accuse me of what the fuck you are right now doing. Living with somebody else's old man off of Ben Hill Road. Remember, Ziggy, how you kept trying to lie and say, oh, PG might have wanted old Donnie. You disgust me. You disgust the fuck out of me. No, it was you wanting that mother freaking Sporns from Hell off of Ben Hill Road. It was you looking to scoop up that mother freaking scum off of Ben Hill Road. You were up there with a mother freaking spatula scraping up the scum off the road, not PG. Right? Because you didn't know how to keep it professional. You wasn't looking to get information for anyone. You was just looking to fill up your bank account. That's what you were doing. Summer was the last thing on your mind. Your own ass was the first thing on your mind. Right? You have no room to even... I'm going to tell you something, Ziggy. The only holiness that you ever mother freaking carry is when you carry my name on your tongue. There you go. It's the only freaking holiness you ever carry. Oh, okay.
But they're thinking she's the prime suspect in his death, you know. They're trying to link her to another death of Brad Simpson. They said that the drug task force said that she had sold him some hot dope that killed him.
What?
That's what they told me, but
I told you. He was talking about the hot stuff, right? And I'm going to tell you something. Where was she getting her stuff? He, you know, right at the beginning, he said she came to his place. Listen to this again, you guys. Listen to this again.
yeah, like I told L.E., the law enforcement and stuff, when I was talking to him about it, Betty Jo did have some money and stuff after, you know, after they had found Cotton and stuff, more money, because she never did have no money, maybe $50 or something other, but she had a couple $100, you know, because she had come and actually tried to buy some dope off of me, and I was actually out at the time.
You see how sad he sounded? I was actually out at the time. Wish I could have took her a couple $100, but I was out of it at the time because I was in the bathroom for 3 or 4 hours making Laura sit outside of the bathroom, shaking and jiggling and wiggling and waiting to be able to get the leftovers that I didn't use up in the bathroom. I only got one damn question. Why the freak does people go to the bathroom? Why do you have to go to the bathroom to do your stuff? Why, what is up with this, Fred? What's up with you substance abuse users always happen to be in a bathroom? What the hell's up with that? Because I'm going to tell you, I don't want to do nothing that's going to draw me into a stinky mother freaking bathroom for 3 or 4 hours. No. Like, that's just freaking weird. That right there is weird within itself. And I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of people who actually party down, right? They party down. They do a lot of stuff, right? They do a lot of stuff, but I didn't never see any of them doing it in a bathroom. What the fuck is up with Ben Hill Road and everybody needing to sit on a toilet when they're doing this stuff? That's weird. That's weird. Right. Oh, so she pops up with monies as well.
Yeah. Yeah, because I talked to law enforcement even about that, you know.
Right, right. Oh, okay.
But they're thinking she's the prime suspect in his death, you know. They're trying to link her to another death of Brad Simpson. They said that the drug task force said that she had sold him some hot dope.
Where was she trying to get her stuff? Where did she bring $200 and he was out and he was out of it? She was, usually she only has like $50. He knows because he was the supplier, right? He was her supplier. So if she had hot stuff, it obviously was his hot stuff. He must have been the one made it hot, not her. Right? If you go get something from somebody, you didn't make it hot. It had to already be hot. Right? It had to already be hot. I mean, really, Fred? You say I'm the supplier, but she got some hot stuff. She got it obviously from you because you just admitted that you were her supplier. What the hell? I mean, does that make any sense? And one breath he says I'm the supplier, and the next breath he's trying to say, she made it hot. She got some hot stuff. How would she know it's hot or not? The person, supplying it's the only one that would know that. Right? There you go. There you go.
That killed him.
What? Oh.
That's what they told me, but
Whoa.
she is a dangerous woman. And
she don't sound like the dangerous one. Just saying. She don't sound like the dangerous one, man. I don't think she's the dangerous one. Brad's the one that sounds dangerous to me. That's my opinion.
She's dating Donald Bernard now, which was, when Dawn had slept with, Candace said Dawn had slept with that, what is her name?
The one that you put a big mark over her face?
I don't know.
On Facebook? The one she called a whore? Candace was calling a whore? And she came up in Don's house and messed with him.
Crystal Spencer.
Yeah.
See, was started after that incident with Dawn. Crystal started.
I bet Fred. Did you see that? Did you guys see his place? Did you guys see that? Fallen down, rusted out. Looked like the bedroom was outside. Like 3 of the walls were gone where the bedroom's supposed to be, kind of stuff. Yeah. I mean, I haven't, wow. Kind of looked like a trash bag. All collapsed. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. Unless a tornado came through. Right? But yeah, they were living in it too. They was living in it. And well, when somebody lives in somewhere like that, so ran down, done met its demises, um, they ain't got much. I mean, you know, they ain't got money to you know, to buy good supplies to, you know, to make what they're making. So I bet you he, you know, when he said she got a hold of some hot stuff, um, because you know, as poor as him and Laura was sitting up there being, he was probably, because he said, you know, he was borrowing gas from half the people around there to, you know, to go where he needed to go and get back and all of this stuff. Um, so you know, he was broke as a joke. He was probably, you know, making that stuff with anything he could find. Like, it didn't matter, right? It didn't matter. He was probably making it with whatever he could find so that he could, you know, so he can make some money. So, you know, he's the supplier. So he can make some money, you know, to be able to get the few little things, you know, that they were getting around there. Um, you know, and him being the supplier, him being, you know, the chemist and the supplier of this stuff, he knew what to not do and what to do, right? I mean, he wasn't about to take that hot stuff himself, but you know, but if he had to whip some up to, you know, to get rid of in order to, you know, to get the supplies to make the good stuff for himself and everything, he's going to probably do it. That's my opinion. And shit, it might have cost this man his life, right? It might have cost this man his life. Wow. I'm going to tell you, evil people don't value other people's life. They value theirs. You know, they ain't going to put that shit in themselves, but they'll sell it to somebody else and not care because, you know, they're just looking for the monies. I'm going to tell you, I know a lot of evil humans like that. Sure do.
And Donald Bernard, and now Betty Joe is dating Donald Bernard. And she's actually she drives a crazy chick, and she thinks she can get out of everything. And Donald
Bernard any relation
driver's
to
knife.
Andy?
Huh?
Is Donald Bernard any relation to Andy?
Yes.
Oh, what is he to Andy?
I don't know, but he's kin to Andy. And see, Donald Bernard and Donald Bernard's brother, I'm trying to think of his name. They own Roten Septic Tank Service, where they pump septic tanks and stuff throughout the creek.
What do you exactly think happened to Summer?
Well,
do you think she was alive on those milk jugs?
At first, I figured it was an accident cover-up, but I don't know. With DJ Smith, Dennis James Samuel Smith, when I was in the halfway house, he allowed that he knew Don and Andy, and that Don and Andy owed a drug debt in Knoxville. This is what he said, and I had to turn it all into TBI, or the law enforcement, and they called TBI to go ahead and dip my phone over it. But he allowed that they had owed money in Knoxville to this playboy, supposedly. And he said it was roughly around 40,000, and that Summer was supposed to been held until they brought the money back. But he went on to say that there was actually 11 children there, But the only two names that he brought up of the children was Summer Wells and a Jonathan Tate. They supposed to be 10 girls and a boy that they was moving between 3 motels and 2 houses in Knoxville.
Now, why would Donald not take the monies back? Because he got way more than 40,000. With
but what I was the way that Dennis talked when all of it went down and stuff. When Don and them called her in missing, Don done that to try to get out of paying, and then I don't know what happened. He let on like they wasn't no return after that because of everything.
Now, I'm going to tell you something. I don't believe that in the least. I do not believe that, for one, Andy Bernard was a supplier. He was a supplier, taking a lot of Don Wells' money. And so was Fred. Because Don Wells did, Fred supplied one thing, Andy and them supplied another. And both is what Don and Candace, was using. So, right there, they're taking everything that Don Wells makes, pretty much, And even Jody Sue said, that Don was able to put an engine in a vehicle, even after, because they thought that, that they were breaking Don and Candace completely of, all their monies. And then she was surprised that, if they needed something to fix their car, they needed something, they had money to do it. She was surprised that, after they took tons of money from Don and Candace, Donald and Candace still was able to have cigarettes and, and other stuff and a bag of corn dogs as well, right? And she was like, she wanted those corn dogs, right? She never got her mind off them corn dogs. Like it's probably been freaking years and she still thinks about those corn dogs, that box of corn dogs she wanted, to dip in some mustard and nibble on herself, right? So, she never got over that. Next time they came, she should have just told them, it's going to be this much money in a bag of corn dogs because, I really like to dip those corn dogs in that mustard and chow them down. And I've been really upset since I didn't get your last ones. But, yeah. But point being is they were the two suppliers and, pretty much keeping. So, I don't think Andy and Donald, for one, I don't think Andy would go in with Donald on anything, on anything. And I'll tell you why. Because I'm smart enough to understand that Andy Bernard, was all about making bank, not getting the bank busted, right? He is one of those people, he's an all or nothing. You know what I'm saying? He ain't about to, he isn't going to risk doing nothing with Don Wells, because the one thing a dealer, a supplier knows is you cannot, what I'm saying is, I know, if I was a corn dog maker and a corn dog supplier, I can't trust Jody Sue with the corn dogs because, because she loves to dip them in mustard and chow them down. And I just can't go in business with someone that loves corn dogs that much, because I'd be out of business in no time, right? And Don and Candace had a real, you know, substance abuse issues, along with a whole lot of other stuff. And Andy is not going to risk going out of business, you know, with someone, with someone like the Wells, who, what I'm saying is they use too much to make anything from it. It would be a loss, not a gain. And so, as far as Andy and Donald going together on, with somebody like that, that's bullshit. That is total bullshit. And I don't believe it for even 2 minutes. I don't believe it at all. PG's little girl, I appreciate that, girl. I appreciate the support for Summer's channel. God bless. I really do. So, and not only that, but on June the 15th, 2021, Andy Bernard was at work. I personally called there. And I personally asked, was he at work? And they said yes. To the best of their recollection, and they've talked to law enforcement, yes, he was there the whole day. And I believe he was. Because he, like Don Wells, he was driving a GPS and Don Wells was driving Starlink. Between the two of them, they wanted that extra alibi for being at work the whole day on that particular day. Now, I'm going to tell you, I do think that Jody Sue's right about Andy supplying stuff to sedate those children to be touched. And I do believe, that Andy knew what was going on over there on 110 Ben Hill Road with those children. And I do believe that he knew whatever happened to Summer had happened. And I do believe that he knew that, she was going to have to be destroyed in order to keep everyone from going to prison. I think he had a hand in all of it, right? I think he knew, I don't think he was the one that did whatever was done to cause Summer to have to be, gotten gone. But I do think that, he was supplying the stuff and he knew what was going on there. And I think I think that Don and Candace did go to him, did talk with him about what was going on, to see what they needed to do and how they needed to go about doing it. And so, with that being said, I think he had knowledge and a hand in there. But I don't think he was the one that caused whatever it was, whatever went down. I don't think he was the one. I don't think he was the one that, made Summer need to see a doctor. I don't think he was the one that did that. I think someone else did. But with him knowing everything and supplying the stuff, I think, he got wind of what did happen. And, and they just didn't want, and I think he knew Don would take everybody down if he went down. So, he stepped in and he helped covered this all up. In my opinion, that's my opinion. I can have that, but I don't think there was no, Knoxville, anything, all of that. I think that was just a bunch of made up BS from Candace and them acting like they had money they did not have, acting like they could afford things they could not afford, acting like they was, dealing with big time and they wasn't, they were fucking all small time pieces of shit. That's my opinion. Hey, member for 1 month. I appreciate that, Amanda. Hey, girl, God bless. God bless. Absolutely. Absolutely. We so appreciate it. Right? Exactly, Cindy. Exactly. My thought is, why did Fred supposedly see both Dawn and Andy so much in that same day? Well, if we remember right, he first tried to say he saw Donald. And then later he switched it. He switched it to, Fred switched it to, he saw Andy meeting up with, a truck and actually a truck that Roy Cotton's sister supposed to have owned, and and then either got a new one or changed the color of the one she had, and you know um Fred's making up a bunch of BS, and I think the reason Fred's making up a whole lot of BS is because Dawn and Andy did have alibis for June 15, 2021. And Fred feels like, that they left him, kind of left him hanging out to dry because Fred has no alibis at all. Him and Laura at first said they went to the junkyard and they made it. And then they went to get some much needed stuff before coming back into Ben Hill Road. And that's when they learned Summer was missing and all of this. And then the next thing you know, they didn't make it to the crusher, right? And then the next thing you know, they didn't go to a crusher at all. They didn't go to the junkyard at all. They left out, met somebody needing help with the one motorcycle. And then Fred came back in, got his dolly thing, and he went back out there and helped the person. He didn't even know him. He took him, dropped him off, had never seen him again. Next thing you know, the person had two motorcycles. Fred knew the guy and helped with two motorcycles. To be honest with you, I don't think Fred and Laura went anywhere that day, period. I think Fred and Laura was down there at Fred's place when Candace went down there to meet up with Chad. I think Chad pulled up and possibly Cotton, was maybe with Chad or something. Somehow Cotton got a glimpse of what was going on. Or maybe, Fred confided in Cotton, told Cotton, all about it. Because Fred's like an old lady. He's like an old woman. He loves to talk, right? He loves to chit chat. So, I'm sure. Hey, spread love. I appreciate that, girlfriend. All right. Member for 26 months. Hey, I appreciate you being such a good support for Summer's channel. God bless. God bless. I also appreciate you being a friend to PG. God bless you. But yeah, Fred, I think Fred and Laura was right there. I think they was right there when Candace came down there, came down there. I don't know if Grandis and Candace, put Summer in a black tote, or if once she got down to Fred's place, they put Summer in a black tote. But somewhere, Summer must have got put into a black tote. And, you know, because Candace said, you know, black tote. Maybe, you know, Candace ain't very intelligent. So maybe she put a black tote in the back seat and went down to ask them if that black tote was going to be okay, you know, if that was going to work. And they helped her put Summer in there. Right? Because I hear the search dogs was down there around Fred's place. That's what I heard. I don't know. But I've been hearing that the search dogs, you know, tapped down at Fred's place. Put a 1 in the chat if you've heard that also. Because that's what I've been hearing. I've had a lot of people saying, PG, them search dogs tapped down at Fred's. Do you know that they tapped at Fred's place? I was like, I thought they went down the dog trail, stopped at the end of the, you know, where the gravel meets the pavement, not the dog trail, but what I heard early on was the dogs went down the driveway and lost scent when the gravel hit the pavement. I heard there was no dog trail. And that they had found 2 footprints in 2 different areas. But I also now am hearing that, you know, law enforcement didn't really release it, but they, you know, that supposedly the dogs hit down by Fred's place as well, you know, off the hill, and then hit down by Fred's after that. So, you know, and if that's true, then that's probably what happened. That's probably what happened, you know, is they went down there and, you know, and that's where they put her in the tote and then took, you know, put it up, because she would have been leaning. If Candace put the black tote in the back of Brandis's vehicle when she went down to meet up with Summer, would have been leaning on the black tote and not the brown boxes at that time. And I think Candace slipped up, you know, and she didn't remember the brown boxes. She just remembered the black tote that Summer's leaning against when she got down to Fred's for them to help her get Summer into it. That's, you know, what I think. And I think that's why the dogs would have hit down there. It's, you know, they picked her scent up down there because she had been transferred into that tote. And then Candace followed Chad out of there over to Morrison Cemetery where, you know, they put her down in there. It sounds to me like they knew that grave over there was dug, you know, already dug. It was going to be a perfect time to get everything done. And they had all the people, you know, everything set in motion. And, you know, Don Dunn went to work. He went to work on the 14th. And that would make perfect sense because he went to work on the 14th. I wondered why he didn't start driving, you know, the Subaru earlier. That often bothered me because I was thinking, if I was going to, you know, I wouldn't have made it so obvious if I was going to do something, right? I wouldn't make it that obvious. Like, you know, I would have changed the vehicle up a few weeks before, right? Like a couple of weeks before I would have started driving the Subaru. I'd have been driving it already for, you know, a couple of weeks, you know, claiming that, you know, I needed to do a little bit of work on my truck or whatever. And I was, you know, and I started driving the other vehicle until I could, you know, tune up the truck or whatever. And I would have been driving it early on, but it makes perfect sense because this man passes away on the 11th. And, and you can't even make arrangements for someone until after they're passed away. Nobody knows when somebody's going to pass away. You can't like make, arrangements for somebody way in advance to be put in what I'm saying is you can't have a grave dug like 2 years before the person, or 5 years, or 20 years. You can't do that. The person has to pass away for you to get a grave dug, right? So the man didn't pass away till the 11th. And by the time, the family probably didn't even notify, the funeral home until late that evening. And they probably came over, on the 12th to pick up the body, right? And take it to the, to the, over to where they do all the stuff, to the cemetery part, to the undertaker. And so they probably, went over there and got all the arrangements made and everything. And then the cemetery probably did have the grave dug. Probably, I'd say on the 15th. I'd say the grave probably would have been dug, more or less like the early morning of the 15th, or, the night of the 15th. Sometimes they dig at night, sometimes they dig, in the morning. So they probably, either the 14th or the 15th, that grave was already, dug out. And so that would make perfect sense. It would make perfect sense that they're over there, dug it up. And yeah. And that would make perfect sense that, it would make perfect sense that that's why Don, started driving the car on the 14th, because he heard that this person passed away. There's going to be the open grave. And, so he drives the car on the 14th, and he fires his coworker to blame it on. And on the 15th, the grave that morning is going to be all dug out, and they're able to, dig a little farther down so they can cover it back up. And it's just waiting there. It's waiting. So, when Candace was coming back into Ben Hill Road, she needed to go up on the hill, gaslight the boys, and then come off, go meet up with Chad, because Chad and his, and his family, the Morlocks, which is related to Chad through his wife, he meets up with Candace, and they go on over. I bet you 10-1 it was Morrison Cemetery they went over to. She followed him right over there. Everything was already ready as Andy texted her, it's done. Meaning, it's the grave site's ready. And she, and they do this. And then Candace goes back to the house, and she gaslights the boys. Where's your sister? I sent her in here for you to watch. Why didn't you watch her? Where is she? And the boys like, what? What's going, And then they're like, at first they're like, she's probably in the basement. We didn't see her, but she's probably down there, because we thought she was outside, but she's probably down there if she ain't outside. And Candace goes down there, stands around, comes back up, trying to see if the boy's been out or looked out or anything out. And, or ask her, well, where you been? We looked out and you were gone. Your grandma won. You were gone. Where'd you, but when they didn't mention, that Candace had been gone for a minute, it sounded like they'd been in the house, didn't look out at nothing, didn't see nothing, didn't hear nothing. She's like, well, okay, it's all good. I'm going to follow through with this. I can't find your sister. Where's your sister? We need to find your sister, and then getting all of them outside and getting them hyped up. And, and she pulled all the stuff. And when law enforcement came in there, the reason they couldn't find Summers because she's already been taken over there and put down in the ground. The last place they would have looked. She's already there. Of course, they're not going to find her. They wouldn't even think of looking there. And here, and while law enforcement's over there all over Donald's land looking and running the searches, this man, the rest of the stuff gets put in there. He gets buried and it's all covered up, and law enforcement is no the wiser. They're none the wiser. They don't know. And they think that they committed the perfect crime. And they might have if law enforcement don't go over there and check to see if she's there. They may have, I don't know why they're getting off their asses going over there and look. I mean, it's not that hard to do. They spent tons and tons and tons of monies, having all them searches and helicopters and all that BS. I'm sure it won't hurt to spend a few more bucks to go check that grave site, right? Maybe they just don't want to admit they were, that they were that ignorant. Maybe they don't want to admit that, that they were actually, that gullible to allow something like that happen. I don't know. I don't know what their problem is. But, their pride shouldn't get in the way of solving a case of a 5-year-old innocent missing child. And Ronnie Lawson, I hope he's going to retire because he's got a new sheriff running against him if he doesn't, right? And the new sheriff's probably going to win because Ronnie can't even solve a 5-year-old missing child's case. He can't do what it takes to solve it. I think Ronnie Lawson gave up on Summers' case when everything came out about his son, and his son ended up going to jail for the same thing that we believe was going on up on Ben Hill Road, right? Innocent children being violated. I think he gave up on Summers' case right then and there. That's just my opinion. That's my opinion. I think he gave up on her case because he didn't want to show his face in public no more after the shame that his son put on him. That's my opinion. Yeah, he needs to go. If he ain't no smarter than to know that he's not responsible, for his son's sins. The father is not responsible for his son's sins, and the son is not responsible for his father's sins. Ronnie Lawson should have still came out, and he still should have did what he does best, and that's fight against crime. It's solving cases and doing what he's supposed to do. He should have still came out, and he should have still done what he needs to do, because his son was not a reflection on him. But him not coming out and working and solving Summers' case was a reflection on him. That's my opinion. He needed to do his job. I can't hardly believe that story because I can't believe that.
I mean, Yeah, DJ, he could have been lying. I don't know,
Yeah,
But
I
I
can't.
did turn it into TBI and stuff, law
Yeah,
enforcement.
I can't believe that story because um, Candace took a picture, that video, about 10 minutes away on
Yeah.
over there on out off of Beach Creek right there. She
Yeah, it
takes.
was at the corner of Merle Road and Long Star,
Mm-hmm. Now
coming around that curve.
she takes that it's about 10 minutes if you're at a
Yeah,
good speed, maybe a little. If you're
yeah,
slow, if you're moving slow, it'd be a little bit more, maybe 14 minutes.
yeah,
But she takes that video and
yeah.
then she heads, somewhere between that video and 110 Ben Hill Road.
Hmm.
You know, Summer comes up missing. Summer comes up missing. That video would have been taken, I estimate, around 3:15. She's pulling into Ben Hill Road around 3:25. She's going up on 110 where she drops Grandma off. And I don't know if maybe she kept Summer in the vehicle so the boys could see their sister and believe she's somewhere still on the property so that she could gaslight the shit out of them.
Yeah, I
Or
don't know.
or if the boys just really didn't see Summer and just assumed that she was, with Grandis and Candace and got out and was there. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like the oldest son knows just the way Dawn, soon as someone went missing and stuff that evening. Dawn, the first time Dawn come to my house and stuff and talk to me, he didn't have the boy with him. But after that, for several days, every time he come, the boy would be with him, and he just look at the ground. Wouldn't he look up at you or nothing? It was like Dawn was trying to control who he was around and keep him from saying anything.
Right. I think Dom was keeping the oldest boy with him, in order to try to gaslight and smokescreen people into believing, he's a good dad and he has a son with him, and you should feel sorry and pity for Dawn and Candace because they have, these children, and Dom was just trying to put a show as if I'm a good dad. I give a shit, about my kids, my son with me.
Forever.
They
And that they was good parents and stuff, but
they were shit parents and very
was
abusive.
around and seen the youngins and stuff.
Right.
That, like when I'd pull up or something other up there at Dawn and Candace's or whatever, Candace, if the youngins was playing with sticks or whatever, they was bad to hit the animals and stuff with sticks. The kids would.
Mm-hmm.
She'd jerk a stick away from them and start hitting them and stuff.
Oh, Lord.
But as far as me seeing Dawn ever do anything to the kids, I've never seen. I'm not taking up for Dawn, period.
Right.
Don't get me wrong. But as far as me seeing Dawn abuse them out in the public or where you could see, I've never seen it. But I have seen Candace do it. Different places.
Did you ever see Dawn act weird around Summer?
No.
Did you ever see Summer acting weird?
And what bothers me too, everybody lets on or Dawn and them let on kind of like old Summer just run up to talk to anybody. I've never seen Summer run up and talk to anybody. What little bit I was around them, she always acts shy like,
Right. Yeah. I don't.
She wasn't the type to run up to a vehicle or when I pull up and I'd pull up sometimes and ask Dawn if he might have a gallon of gas or something other that I could borrow to make it to town, and I'd bring it back to him. Because if you don't get gas, have money to get gas, and you come from Kingsport, then and to get back, you're screwed.
Right.
So, and sometimes I didn't have money, and I'd come on in, and I'd stop and ask a few people if I could borrow a gallon or something, and I'd bring it back to them as I come back just to make sure I made it to town.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's very easy to get stuck out there if 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 you're mindless and you don't remember to keep your car filled up. You could very easily need gas and you ain't got none. And even if you got AAA, you're going to be using it all up with them coming out to give you some gas. Roadside assistance. You'll find out.
And most people ain't even got AAA or nothing. Most of them ain't even got insurance.
Yeah, probably. I wouldn't doubt that. I wouldn't doubt that at all.
Most of them ain't got license or nothing to even drive, but they do anyway, which I did too. I drove around without license myself. I can't complain. I mean, can't say nothing about anybody else driving. I was just wrong as much as they was.
You got your license now?
Huh?
Do you have your license now?
No, I don't have my license, no.
Wow. What did they want to give them back to you?
Well, I've got something against my license where I'd had an accident, and they was going to sue me over it, and then they never showed in court that day, but all I got to do is go in I got to go to Greene County. That's where Homeland Security is.
Mm-hmm.
Anything to do with your license is through Homeland Security now.
Right.
And I got to go there and talk to a judge to have him to sign off for me to go ahead and get my license back.
Oh.
Which I do.
I'd be doing that. Ziggy drives, right? She's got her license?
Yeah, she got her license back. They had expired and stuff, and then they give her a bid about getting them renewed and stuff. But actually, last week she finally got them back.
Well, praise God on that.
I mean, they was never suspended. They just had run out, and then they wouldn't renew them, But they never was suspended or nothing. They was always valid.
Right. That's the one thing you got to remember to do is always, keep up to date on your license, constantly get it renewed each time. It would probably, be worth the trip to, I don't know if she's got a vehicle right now or she don't, but if she doesn't.
Yeah, I've got a vehicle. We got a.
Well, if you all got a vehicle, then, why are they walking to the dollar store? If they got a vehicle, why they always walking to the dollar store? Can somebody answer that for me? Why you be walking to the dollar store if you got a vehicle? That don't make no sense, right? I don't see them going down the road in a vehicle. I don't see, well, Fred would probably have to sit in a path, the driver's seat, and Ziggy would have to push, because I don't think Fred could push Ziggy, but I ain't even seen him push it. I ain't seen him push it down the road to the dollar store, right? If it don't run, I ain't seen him drive it. I ain't seen him push it. Why'd always be walking? Yeah, but I thought the reason they had to go to the dollar store is because they don't have a vehicle. I'm pretty sure that's what I heard. Put a 1 in the chat if that's what we heard. Because I know that's what we heard. That they have to walk to the dollar store because they don't have a vehicle to get anywhere else. Oh, the repo man took it. They drive at night so they don't get caught driving without a driver's license. Yeah. Fred's got a van. Oh, I know that they lost one car. There was a lady, there was some woman that loaned Ziggy a real good amount of money to buy to buy a vehicle, and Ziggy was supposed to pay her back. But I heard Ziggy didn't ever pay her back, and she also had the vehicle got repoed as well. Am I right about that? Yes or no? Am I right that that's what supposedly happened? That's what I heard. So yes, that's what happened. Okay. Yeah, that's what I heard. I heard that, but he's trying to say that he has a vehicle there that they're able to drive. And but then I heard him telling everybody that they walk to the dollar store because they don't, they can't drive and they have to walk there because it's the closest place to get food. I mean, I know that's what I heard. No, the milk jug video is on the 15th. Law enforcement has checked into that, and it's definitely on the 15th. Matter of fact, it wouldn't have went to forensics. It wouldn't have went to forensics if it wasn't on the 15th. Because, Summer was seen by the tree cutters earlier that morning, and she was definitely alive. So, they wouldn't have bothered. They wouldn't have bothered, to even send it to forensics. But they sent it to forensics. So that means, it was taken. They have proof it was taken on the 15th. Oh, it would be worth gassing up, going to that Greene County and taking.
Yeah, I've got to go to Hawkins County over it's just an update on my fines, the 20th, I think it is, at 9 o'clock.
Right.
I go every 3 months to make sure. All it is just a show cause to make sure I am paying on my fines and stuff.
Right. The day that Summer went missing, Candace says that she came down, well, she didn't deny coming down to your house. She don't deny seeing Chad Arnold down there. Why would she be at your house around 4:15? Why would she be at your house that particular day? Because Summer wouldn't have been missing yet. But she told Chad Summer was. She didn't bother to come knock at your door to see if Laura was there.
I don't know why.
Because
I don't know why she come really to my house, because she's never been to my house, period, Candace Hampton.
Oh, okay. And
she's never been to 207 or 165 or 167 either. Never been there.
I mean, I know that, like if I go to someone's house and even if, the car's gone, I know that, there's a girlfriend and boyfriend living there, or I know it's the wife and husband. I still go knock on the door because the wife might be there and he may be gone someplace. I still knock on the door to see if they're home.
Yeah, Laura a lot of time was home. I mean,
right,
when I was gone.
And I find it funny that Candace didn't even bother to come up and knock on the door that day when Chad Arnold saw her. You know, that's
Yeah, I didn't even know she had been there until Chad had mentioned it, you know.
right, right. And he mentioned it to law enforcement as well. You know,
Yeah.
and it was too soon for Summer to be up. You know, what bumfuddled him was it was too soon for her to come up missing. I mean,
Yeah.
this is between 4:15, and Summer ain't even supposed to be missing until 5:55, 6 o'clock. Because she
I
didn't even
know.
call Dawn until 6:09. They didn't even call law enforcement until 6:28. They rounded it off at 6:30, but it was more like 6:28, 6:29 when the call came in from Dawn. Candace's call didn't come in until after that. They didn't ever release anything about Candace's call, only Donald's, which I found weird as well. I was just wondering, you know, so Don and Candace couldn't have had anything to do with what happened to Cotton then, because you guys followed him back to his area for safety purposes.
I wouldn't think they did. My opinion on Cotton, I feel like that he probably had just went in on Betty Joe because he's went in on her before.
Right.
And I feel like she probably may have hit him with something and just panicked and took him over to the edge of the bank and throwed him off.
If she didn't ever do something like this to him before, why would she do something like that to him now?
I don't know. She has psychotic moments. I mean, just like Donald Bernard, she stabbed him in the back with screwdrivers and all kinds of stuff and laugh at him and him have to go to somewhere else for them to pull it out and stuff.
Oh my God.
He's a dangerous individual, actually.
Whoa. Yeah.
And she hung out on Light Holler Road a lot too.
No,
see her.
That's pretty rough area, right?
Yeah.
That's
well,
rough.
I mean, that's just like Karen Ringpo. That's always up in Six Ups and Crystal's chat and stuff. See, her and Betty Joe is best friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're real tight. Supposedly somebody said Don had been traveling to Light Holler buying some dope at times. Only place that he could been buying any dope at in Light Holler around the time that they was saying he would have been at this woman named Lisa.
Oh,
and she lives in the first trailer on the left as you go in Light Holler in Sullivan County.
Right.
And see, that's where Karen Ringpo and Betty Joe Simpson hangs out.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh, okay. There you go. There you go. You know, good old Fred. Good old Fred. Did you see how he, this woman's got mental issues and, and all kinds of things. She had money and trying to put everything about Cotton off on this woman. For one, Cotton was a big man, and this woman would not be able to get him. And there would have been, DNA everywhere saying that she drugged him from her house all the way. There would have been signs that this big old man was dragged clean over there and, around to the place where there'd have been skid marks you know, from dragging him to put him off, you know, the way. There's no way in hell. No way in hell. I'm going to tell you what. When it comes to Cotton, I believe that Cotton knew something about Summer's case. Because he said, you know, Summer was in a box. Candace said, you know, she was leaning against a black tote, which is a box. You know, to men, that's a box. So, you know, it's all adding up that Cotton did. And, you know, Fred's place was where Candace went to, Chad Arnold went to, and probably Cotton was there as well with Fred and Laura. There is no proof that Fred and Laura ever went out of the holler that day. They was not ever seen coming back in. Fred was seen late that evening trying to leave out, and law enforcement said no. If it ain't an emergency, you can't get out. And Fred had to go, you know, go turn around, go back down to his place. Now, that pretty much says that Fred and Laura probably wasn't even out of the holler that day. They wanted to put themselves out of the holler, but there's no proof they ever was. No proof that they ever was out of the holler at all. Now, there is proof that, you know, that these people were meeting up at Fred's house that day. And it even comes out of a horse's mouth. It even came out of the horse's mouth. And I'm going to play that for you.
Yeah, it's right there.
Right.
Don, do you know who a Chad Arnold is?
Yes, I do.
And so, somebody asked me. Said,
Yeah, Chad Arnold was married to. No, he didn't die.
I thought he died.
Not that I'm aware of, anyway. But Chad Arnold was at Fred Hill's house when when Candace was looking for Summer. She drove back in the holler to Fred Hill's house, and Chad Arnold was hanging out back there. I've been to Chad Arnold's house before, and he had all kinds of people hanging out in his
was he a
shed.
cracky?
Is he what?
Was he like a meth head like Fred Hill?
Yes. Chad Arnold loves his meth.
And so does other people, Donald. You know, we seen you live in the bathroom, you know, doing some stuff, and we seen you live doing stuff outside the bathroom as well. We've seen a lot. So, you know, kind of like the pot talking to the kettle, right? And but right there, right out of the horse's mouth, yes, Candace met up with Chad down at Fred's house. Candace, you know, seen Fred seen Chad Arnold at Fred's. Even Donald says yes. Candace seen Chad down at Fred's. You know, right out of the horse's mouth. And even Marlena says, you know, 4:30 time frame. You know, everybody said, and so does Laura, 4:30 time frame. You know, all of these people, and Summer wasn't even missing. She wasn't missing at 4:30. She was on the milk jugs. Right? She was on the milk jugs. At like 3:30, she's on the milk jugs. I mean, there's no way. She wasn't even supposed to be gone yet. She's supposed to still be in the care of Candace and Grandis. when, you know, when all of these people's claiming, oh, she's supposed to have been, you know, missing. These people are all telling the time frame that they met up with her and, you know, done something. And they're like, you know, well, she's saying the kid was missing at this particular time. And Chad Arnold did not, he spoke with law enforcement. He didn't go to law enforcement. Law enforcement went to Chad. Law enforcement had to track Chad down to talk to him about Candace. You know, they had to go tell Chad, hey, we got you on video with Candace Wells following you out of Ben Hill Road around 4:30 on June 15, 2021. Can you tell us about this? Oh, well, yeah, she came down. I was going to Fred's and Candace came down to Fred's and she said her little girl's missing. And, you know, because Chad was out of the loop. He didn't know what time Summer's supposed to come up missing. He had no idea, you know. And to him, she was, you know, she's missing at 4:30 when they, you know, when they went out of the holler to go get rid of her. He thought Candace was going to claim that, you know, she was missing around that time and not the time that she did. Just like Jody Sue. Jody Sue was also on the 4:30, a little after 4:30 mark. She says, I hear the scream, you know. But Candace went and said, you know, she's only been missing a few minutes, which would have made her missing at 5:55, 6 o'clock, and not back at the time all of these other people, you know, thought was going to be the time. So, you know, they didn't have their story straight. These people didn't have their story straight. And they screwed up. And I don't understand why, you know, law enforcement can't figure out what we've already figured out. Are you telling me that, you know, Johnny Public out here is way smarter than law enforcement? Is that what you're telling me? Are you telling me that we're more brilliant than they are? We might be. Right? We might be. I had to think that over for a second. We might be. That could be true. That could be true. I'm thinking we are too, Stephanie, to be honest with you. But that right there, what you just heard was, you know, a little bit more of, you know, what me and Fred talked about. These are the things that we were talking about when we were talking on the phone. This is what we were talking about. You know, did anybody hear anything like Ziggy wants to insinuate was being said? Did anybody hear anything that would accommodate what Ziggy was trying to put a narrative upon? No, nobody heard nothing that she was trying to put a narrative upon. Again, all you heard was me keeping it professional and getting all the answers I can for Summer, Moon, Utah, Wells. What you heard was me trying to get the answers to how Cotton is related into Summer's situation and why he ended up being taken out as well. All I'm seeking is answers for a 5-year-old missing little girl so she can be found, brought home, and properly laid to rest so she could lay to rest in peace like everyone should be allowed to. Until the Lord returns and takes everyone home, right? She should be allowed to have her own spot, not be taken up part of someone else's. Everybody out here that is invested in this case deserves closure, including Summer's 3 brothers, right? She's got 3 brothers. They sure like to know what happened. They like to know the truth. And so would we. But these people don't know how to tell the truth. They don't know how to tell the truth because they're evil as hell. They ain't ever told the truth. They don't know what the truth is. They have no idea what the truth is because they ain't ever told it. It's a foreign language to them, right? A foreign language. But I'm not done, Ziggy. I'm far from being done. You opened this can of worms, not PG. You did. You wanted to insinuate something that didn't ever happen. Didn't ever happen. If it makes you feel better, I think you need to think that somebody's trying to talk to your Fred in order to feel like he was worth taking from Laura. You want to feel somebody else wants your scum bucket. So you won't feel the way you do about having it. Right? Well, bitch, you got me bent. I sure the hell don't want your dude. I'll tell you that right now. I don't stand outside prison gates. I don't bring people like that into my home around my children. Hell to the no-no. Those are people who you call 911 if you see them even approaching your community. Right? Only you, Ziggy, are evil enough to pick up evil. Only you. You need to remember, PG's a child of God, not a spawn of Satan. Right? Exactly. Exactly, squirrel. Exactly. Hell no. 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 I'm going to tell you something. Hell no. You know, I don't plan on becoming celibate anytime soon. But I'm going to tell you what, before I stand outside of a prison gate, I would go look into becoming a nun, right? Or as close to one as I could. Heck no. Hell no. I don't think so. Not today. That's BS. That's BS, man. How she does it, I have no idea. But that last dude, that last guy she had, that Jim guy, he was green eyes. That Jim guy was green eyes. Yeah. He was the guy calling me up on the phone, saying really ugly, horrible things, trying to scare PG, and I couldn't be scared. Right? I couldn't be scared. You know what I did to old Jim? I'll tell you what I did to Jim. I called him up. I called him up 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. Oh, green eyes. I gave him a ring back. I called him up. Yeah. I told him he might as well stay up with me. He wants to harass me, on his time. Well, I wanted to call and talk to him on my time too. Yeah. I had to listen to the BS that he wanted to say to me. Well, he needed to listen to the fart song I wanted to play to him. Right? He needed to listen to the fart songs, all the fart sounds that I wanted to play in his ears. To be honest with you, the guy actually started to like me. He started to like PG. Why? Because he couldn't scare me. He couldn't scare me. What Ziggy thought he could do couldn't be done. I ain't afraid of nothing but God Almighty, and that's all I'm going to be afraid of. That's the only one that can take the breath out of me. It's the only one that can choose whether I go to heaven or Hades. Right? We got a heaven to gain, a hell to shun. And God Almighty's in control of it all. Through his son, Jesus Christ, it's the only way to eternal life. Yeah, I did. I gave him that fart song. Here fart, there fart, everywhere fart. Old MacDonald ate some beans. E-I-E-I-O. And then I played the fart sound in his ears. And then when I was tired, I said, hey, I gotta go, talk to you another day. Hung up. Yeah. And guess what? He started sending me pictures of Ziggy up on Ben Hill Road at Freddie's house. He started talking to me. He started giving me a lot of good information. Yeah. Aw, that's so sweet. I sure hope so. Michelle. I hope so. I don't count my eggs until they hatch. I don't know for sure till I get there. But I tell you what, if I do, oh, PD gonna be doing a happy dance, right? I'm gonna be doing a happy dance. I'm gonna be going through that gate, right? I'm gonna be going through that gate. You gotta walk like you walk, let them talk like they talk, right? I'm gonna be singing that song. I'm gonna be singing it. I'm gonna be doing the dance. I'm gonna be moving. Them haters gonna hate. PD gonna be doing, I'm gonna be doing a happy dance. Like they say, they talk about our Jesus, then they'll talk about you. Oh, that blue, I'm gonna tell you, that blue solo cup, oh my goodness. Blue solo cup is something different, right? He be popping up at the damnedest times. And you know, I wonder where he came from. I often wonder where this guy came from, right? He just comes out of the blue. And I have to wonder, you know, what does he have to do with all of this? Because something ain't normal about, you know, this blue solo cup showing up out of nowhere. Something ain't right about that. Oh, I think Blue Solo Cup definitely knows Don Wells. Yes, he knows Donald. Absolutely, he knows Donald. Trust and believe it. He works in construction. Donald works in construction. They got to know each other. I mean, he's right there in Kingsport, you know, right in that location. They know each other. There's some, yeah, there's some kind of connection there. Oh, he is funny. I gotta admit that. He's likable. He's likable. But I'm gonna tell you, evil's like that. Evil's very likable. You know? When they say that, you know, evil will welcome you in when you're not feeling at home, you know, like you go to these churches that have their little cliques and you feel like you're on the outside instead of the inside, you know, and you go back around the bad people and they welcome you all in. Sure, misery loves company. Misery loves company. You know, but you just got to keep going to different churches. You got to keep going. You know, if you go to a church and you don't feel welcome, that's God saying this church ain't for you. This ain't the church you belong in. Go to another one. When you go into the right church, if you're really seeking God, when you walk into the right church, you'll know you're home. No doubt you'll know. Sometimes, you know, I went to a lot of churches. I went to a lot of churches before I found the one where, you know, where I actually heard the words, "You're home." I won't ever forget it. I heard the words, "You're home." And I was. Took me a long time to find that church, but I did. Beautiful church. Beautiful church. Good people. Very good people. But a lot of churches, you know, they have these little cliques and everything. And, you know, and sometimes, you know, you can feel like you're on the outside instead of the inside of it all. But, you know, give it time. Give it time and you know, you'll be on the inside as well. You know, it takes people time to get to know you, time to, you know, really understand your motive for being there. A lot of people go into these churches to, they go into these churches like a wolf just to take advantage of all the good people in there. Try to get everything they can out of them people. And those people are always on, guard. They're on guard. You have to show them that you're really there for all the right reasons. And they'll embrace you and take you in as well. You just got to give it time. Evil will accept you right now today. Because evil wants to devour you. They want, misery loves company. They want to use you up and get everything they can out of you and destroy you. That's why they're so quick to take you in. They got motive. The church don't have no motive. What denomination are you, PG? Well, my denomination is Child of God. I'm a child of God. There's only one church. I believe that there's only one church, and that's the Church of God Almighty. And the only way is through his Son, Jesus Christ, to eternal life. You want to be part of the body of Jesus Christ, you have to accept Jesus into your life. You got to get baptized. You got to get your eyes open. It doesn't matter what the church, what name is over the church door. It doesn't matter. That doesn't determine whether you get your eyes open or not. What determines whether you get your eyes open or not is how much you love God and how much you want them opened. That's what's going to open them. Not a name over a building. And, when you get your eyes open, you belong to one church. And that's the Church of God Almighty. You become a child of God. And he loves you forever and always. That's my denomination. And I hope everybody gets there. Because every one of those buildings that we call churches, people get their eyes open. Every last one of them. The ones seeking to get their eyes open will, no matter what door you go through. And that's the truth. All right, you guys. PG's going to head out of here. I'm going to head out of here. I'm not here to preach you guys a sermon. If I did, you might be angry with me because I don't say what people want to hear. I don't say what people want to hear. I say what I think is going to save souls, right? I preach for the soul, nothing more, nothing less, right? I tell you, you got a hell to shun and a heaven to gain. And the only way to gain it is to get on the righteous path and start walking, following the light of Jesus Christ, and don't get off of it. Stay on it, hang on to it, do all you can to win that white gown, that beautiful robe, and the one purpose that we're all here for, to show God that we can be good enough to enter the gates of heaven. That's the whole purpose of this life. Nothing more, nothing less. It's to show God that we can be good enough, that we got enough love, kindness, caring, and sharing in our hearts to get through that pearly gate. And that we're doing all we can to do it. The only thing's going to get you there. Right? But I don't say what people want to hear. I say that, you're going to Hades, man. You're going to Hades if you think if you think you can do whatever you want to do, or you think you're walking down that street lukewarm, you know, oh, I'm not really bad, not really good, not really bad, I'm not really, you know, you're going to be spewed. You're going to get spewed into Hades. God has more respect for the ones walking all the way over there on the evil side than down the middle. You need to be on either, you know, the right or the left. You need to be a sheep or a goat. It's, you know, your choice, your choice. I choose to be a sheep. I want to be a sheep. I want Jesus to be my shepherd, and I want to walk in the light. I want to make it to the pearly gate, and I want to be able to go in. I don't want to hear old St. Peter say, who are you? You know, I don't think you belong here. I don't want to hear that. I want to hear, come in, my good and faithful servant. That's what I want to hear. And I tell you what, I don't, you know, some people say, oh, I'm going to get a mansion in heaven, or I'm going to get a cabin in heaven. I just want standing room. I just want standing room in heaven. Man, I don't care. I don't care about mansions. I don't care about cabins. I don't care about none of that. I just want a place, just a little small place to stand. Just a, you know, I don't care if people's crowding around me. I just want to be there. And that's the truth. I don't need anything in this life except my Jesus. And I don't need nothing when I'm gone from this life but my Jesus. That's it. I just need him to lead the way. You know, and I try to do everything I can righteously. And that's what I'm doing now. I'm doing what's righteous. I'm doing what's righteous. I'm showing the people out here that, you know, I'm not the person that people try to portray me to be. I'm not, you know, I'm not what they want me to be. I'm what I am. A good person that's just out here trying to help find these missing children, bring them home, and get justice for them. And to save other children from having to endure this type of misery, pain, suffering, ungodliness on the face of this earth. No child deserves to be done like that. None. Period. But I'm going to say good night. Keep those prayers going up. Keep the prayers going up for Summer Moon, Utah Wells. Keep them going up from our lips to God's ears through his son, Jesus Christ. He will hear us. He will answer. It's all on his time, not ours. But if we keep praying, God will answer. Have faith, y'all. Have faith. It moves mountains. It uproots trees. And believe me, I know. I know. I've tested it. I've tested it, and I know for a fact it works. So keep those prayers going up in the name of Jesus Christ. Keep them going up for all of these missing children. Summer Moon, Utah Wells, Sebastian Rogers, Michael Vaughn, little Jack and Lily, Emmanuel. So many, so many. Keep them going up for the families that lost the children at that church this past week. Keep them going up for the Idaho Forest family, who I'm sure is not over what happened there as well. Keep them going up for all of these people that are losing their children. because we're losing our future. When we lose these kids, we're losing our future, you guys. They are our future. And without them, there's going to be a ripple. There's going to be a ripple. Because they were supposed to be here too. Touching many lives that won't be touched. Keep those prayers going up. God bless you. May God keep you. Good night, everybody.